Good evening, everyone. Everyone's doing okay? 2 hard days at DevOps UK. Energy's kind of low, I contend. I know. We're going to go to a party afterwards, but one more session. We stand between you and a party, so we will try to make it a party already. We got chocolates, we got stroopwafels. So if you have a nice question to ask us, any question, you get one of these. So let's get started. So I hope that you've had a lot of fun and that you've been inspired by coming to DevOps. I know that every DevOps I go to, I get very inspired to go build some stuff. And building is one thing, but and it can be creative. But what I really enjoy is when I build something and then I can share it with other people around the world. And I'm very excited about sharing this. And what better place where you can share what you know and what you've learned than this thing doesn't click correctly. Then in the clouds. So what I would like to do is, whenever I've built something, be able to share it and then launch it in a cloud on like a big spaceship. Because what do we currently have in the cloud? We have Maven repositories where you can download your favorite libraries like Spring Boot and Quarkus. And on the other hand, if you use tools like Brew or Chocolatey, you can download CLI tools. Those all live there. But then, yeah, how do we even get there? We need to launch our code up there with the rest of them. So we can get there by building a small little spaceship. And the spaceship is actually kind of a representation of what most of us do. Because raise your hand if you have like a whole bunch of scripts lying around to deploy something to the clouds. Yeah, most people do. It's just an amalgamation of these nasty custom-built monstrosities that we copy-pasted from, I guess now, ChatGPT, and then we hope that it deploys to the correct thing.
And then after a year, you don't know how it works anymore.
Exactly. And I thought there has to be a way that we can do this better and easier. And then I was browsing Twitter, as I often do, and I saw this tweet about a product I'd never heard about, JReleaser. And it said, JReleaser spotted in the wild, MCS, blah, 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 search the Maven Central repository from your command line by MTH Mulders. And I was like, I know that guy. That's this guy, my colleague. So I went to him and was like, Maarten, what is so interesting about JReleaser that one, you use it, and two, that they are actually mentioning you? Like how, what? What is this thing?
Yeah, what is this thing? Well, I was ecstatic back then when you asked me, and well, ecstatic is a big word if you're Dutch. I mean, just enthusiastic. But still am actually, because JReleaser really makes it a breeze for me to create releases of this tool, Maven Central Search, and actually publish them in whatever cloud location I want to. So when you asked me that question, I responded very positively and was enthusiastic about what it did. But you know, that little spaceship of yours, sure, that looks cool, but it's not exactly the real thing if we want to take software releases seriously. As we said, I mean, you forget how it works, you hope it actually works. There's got to be a better way. And to me, JReleaser basically is like a real spaceship, like this baby, for instance. This can definitely get us into the cloud. And it's basically a combination of tools and utilities to automate the release process for me. And unlike government space agencies who typically build these spaceships but keep it a secret how they work and don't want to share it with other government space agencies, the people that created JReleaser decided to open source their learnings and share it with everybody who wants to use it. And that even includes me. So I was very happy that I could stand on the shoulder of giants, as they say, use this spaceship for my pet project that back then was just a little thingy that, well, I thought was fun to create, and maybe it could be of use to 1 or 2 persons around the globe. And all that combined effort is in this spaceship, which is great. So today we are here to discuss JReleaser. You might have figured that by now. And there's 2 reasons for us doing this. First of all, we believe JReleaser is an incredibly handy tool if you need to release your software in any way. We're not affiliated with JReleaser ourselves. Okay, I think both of us already contributed a patch or two because we found a bug or we found something that we would like the tool to do, but we saw it didn't do yet. But it's not our brainchild. It's not something that we created. It was created by Andres Amirai, who we thought wouldn't be here. He is here, but he is literally right now giving another talk, so he is still not in the position to tell about JReleaser. But then again, it is his brainchild in a way, and we thought it would be great to hear about it from somebody else, somebody who is a little less invested. Without further ado, let's get going. We will cover 3 main topics for the remainder until the party. We will tell a little bit about JReleaser and its main concepts. We will then show JReleaser in action. That's going to be the scary part, or maybe not. Time will tell. And then finally, we will give you some ideas of other options, other capabilities that JReleaser has to offer for you.
Sounds good so far. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. We're leaving some space here. Huh?
Excellent. So, what is JReleaser? Well, if you go to the website, it says JReleaser is a release automation tool, and we don't have much to add to that. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. No, don't worry. They describe the tool as the quickest and most effortless way to release your Java projects. Was inspired by JReleaser. You figure where the name comes from, which basically does the same thing, but for Go software projects. And then, well, this is more tailored towards Java projects. JReleaser, as I said, was originally created by Andres Amirai. It's not like a one-person pet project that hardly anybody uses.
It's not?
Sorry?
It's not?
It definitely is not. At least I am using it, so that makes 2 persons already, but luckily there's bigger groups of people that use it too. To mention just a few, the Quarkus team uses it, JBang uses it, JVAR unit uses it, SDKman uses it, and there's many, many more projects around the world. And I have seen quite a few situations where Andres was trying to nerd snipe JReleaser into another project that he thought could benefit from using JReleaser, even into Maven itself, which in a way partially overlaps with what JReleaser has to offer.
But what would happen if Andres one day, unfortunately, falls under a truck, or if he just, in a more cozy way, decides to stop work on JReleaser?
A little less dramatic, please. Let's just say that he decides that it's no fun anymore. Well, I'm happy you asked that, because recently JReleaser was transformed into was moved into the newly created Common House Foundation, which is like an umbrella for quite a few cornerstone Java open source projects, which we believe will help in making it get a longer lifetime, also making it easier for others to contribute and to basically provide some new home, rather than, oh yeah, it's just my idea of how I like to run the project.
Who had heard of Common House before? Not that many people.
No.
So even, I believe, JBang is also moving under it.
Yes, Hibernate is there.
Hibernate's also going to be...
I think Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson as well.
Yeah, so that's quite a few cornerstone projects for the Java ecosystem, and JReleaser also found its new home there.
Yeah, so for example, one of the things that as open source tools is sometimes hard to do is get financial sponsors, because then you have a whole legal thing, because you now are getting money and taxes and so on, and the foundation can also take care of that partially as well. So it's really a good home for open source projects, and I was personally very happy to see JReleaser, something that I'm also a fan of course, to end up there. And I think in the near future we'll see a lot more projects join this, but that's up to the project.
I wouldn't be surprised if more projects move in that direction, indeed. Okay, but a little bit more on JReleaser itself, rather than the place where it lives today. What are we going to put in the cloud today, Tom?
For those who don't know me, I'm kind of a quirky guy.
You are.
There's probably pictures from last year when I was here with a big plush animal doing some weird demo. But one of my other weird projects is that I have a Spring Boot starter. So you have Spring Boot starter web, Spring Boot starter JDBC. I built my own, which is a Rickroll security, which basically whenever someone is
You need that.
when someone is unauthorized to call an API, it redirects them to the Rickroll video. Because if someone tries to hack you, you might as well make them suffer.
Yeah,
So
that'll teach them.
Yeah, and it started kind of as a joke, but then people from the Spring team started committing on it. So it's semi-serious. So that's what I want to deploy. It's basically just a jar file that I put to Maven Central. And what about you?
But that's the thing, right? I mean, if I want this and I want this, then I don't want to download it manually and search. I just want to have a dependency in my POM and say, Maven, do your thing, download it, including the rest of the internet, and add it to my application. Yeah. And as I said, my first getting to know JReleaser was when I had the first raw version of MCS done, and I wanted to distribute it, to make it easy for people to just get that executable, run it on their machine, and play with the tool and see if it worked for them. But not by downloading a file, but just do things like, brew install whatever, choco install whatever, scoop install whatever, and there's probably many more package managers that I even forgot about.
Yeah, so you have your own CLI tool that you like to distribute, but you don't want people to have to download it.
Perfect. Yeah. So there's that. Let's see if we can translate that into the reality of JReleaser.
Yeah, and for that, there's quite a few things that need to happen. You need to make a CLI and such. Luckily for me, it's just building a jar file, and we already have tools for that. So then the real question is, what kind of tools can you use? And it's basically whatever automation you already have. If you use Gradle, if you use Maven, you can integrate JReleaser in that. And basically what JReleaser can automate for you is it can make distributions. So that's things that you kind of want to distribute. And those distributions contain artifacts. So in an artifact can be basically anything in the JReleaser setting. So it's a bit confusing sometimes because artifacts mean something different in the Maven world.
Yeah.
But in the context of JReleaser, you have distributions which contain artifacts, and artifacts can be basically any file. It could be even the
I think a
change
file or a directory.
A
right?
file or a directory.
Yeah, and that's the big difference indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't really have to change your build process. You can use JReleaser as a plugin or as a separate CLI tool.
I think they even have a GitHub action nowadays.
And a GitHub action nowadays.
Yeah.
But then we have a distribution. So then we have something, we have a build. So what do we do with this box that we just created?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing, especially if you share the software that you've created with other people, is you want to actually document that it exists, which versions there are, what fixes are in there, what new features are in there. And I don't know about yourself, but I'd rather not do it this way, like browsing git log and then writing it down or maybe copy pasting it. I mean, we have git log. We should be able to automate this, right? And just say, you know how it works, inspect the git log and create a change log out of that and just write it down.
So you want like basically a nice list of everything that changed, but you're too lazy to write it yourself.
Excellent summary. Just this, like, that people can just go to GitHub in this case and see, there's version 4.1. It's not latest anymore, but never mind that. And this is the fixes that are in that version. There's a few maintenance tasks. And by the way, if you want to download it, these are the distributions. There you have the word again, which are basically zip files, one for each target platform, because it's a native executable. So you have to download the correct one for your operating system and your machine.
So JReleaser also uploads the files, right? The zip
file. I hope
the...
it will, because I don't feel like doing it by hand after all. That's the whole idea.
That's good, but
yeah,
I don't want to go to your GitHub. I need to now. So from a consumer perspective, I am not going to check the GitHub of every project ever that I use to go look at is there something new, unless if it breaks. So
yeah.
The equivalent is, I don't want to go to a store and check, do they have something new? Do they have something new? Oh, they don't have it. I'll come back later. You don't want to do that.
There's a design pattern for that, I guess.
Yeah, but Nice callback. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to the store. I'm a lazy millennial. I get things delivered at home. So what I would like is instead of having to go to Martin's,
GitHub.
yeah, the thing that's hiding somewhere on the internet,
Ah.
instead of that, I would like to have his software delivered just to my machine. And we already have things for that. It's called Brew, Chocolatey. It's, I think Scoop is the one. And does JReleaser really support this decently, Martin?
Yes, and many more. I have to add, by the way, I think this is the most up-to-date list as of now. There's quite a few, and there's even quite a few that I never heard about. Scoop, for instance, was relatively new for me, so I added that only recently for MCS. But not all distribution types do make sense. For instance, if I have a Windows executable, it doesn't quite make sense to skip that through Mac ports. Or if I have a Linux package, put it in winget, because winget, somehow the name tells me that it's not going to work on Linux. I don't know. So the great part is that JReleaser actually matches the type of executable. If you correctly say this is a Linux distribution or a Windows distribution, and it says, okay, it doesn't make sense to publish it over there, or it does make sense. And then the good part is, if you what package manager do you use on Windows? Or
Chocolatey normal.
Chocolatey, okay.
Chocolatey
So how do you update your software?
Choco upgrade. It's been a while. I don't actually remember.
You should do that on a daily basis, 3 times. You know that.
Yeah, but why? Again, I'm a lazy millennial. Why do you want me to update it every day?
Well,
why don't you tell me when you have something new? You're gonna go door to door to tell me. Oh,
you see me doing that, like, oh, dear Tom, please know that there's a new version of MCS. I'd appreciate if you could download.
Yeah, but
You expect me to do that? I might not be a millennial, but I'm lazy as well. Come on.
Yeah, but and we kind of mentioned this because what Martin sometimes does is he will post it on Twitter like, "Hey, I have a new version," but then he has to do it manually. Well, actually, JReleaser can just post to Twitter to. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's still Twitter.
Twitter's
Mastodon to Blue Sky. It can post to many different pages, and it can take into account your build version number, so it can automatically fill that. So it can announce it for you as well. So to kind of summarize what we've talked about so far, so you have your build tool. You can see that it doesn't even have to be Java. It can be Rust. It can be the other thing, and then Maven. And then in large part, it can do 3 different things. It can release, and release is a bit of a weird name for something that's called JReleaser, but it actually can release. And with release, we mean make change notes, put them on GitHub and or a GitLab or one of the other ones, and post all the binaries there as well. That's what's called a GitHub release. Then we have package, and package actually kind of means we have this nice little executable, and we give it to these package managers like Homebrew, like JBang, one of the other ones. And then you also have an announce functionality, and announce is really the post on Twitter /X, Mastodon, and so on. X, yeah.
What's that?
I don't know. Apparently it's new.
Okay.
But and for the last one, because I'm really a fan for JReleaser for the last one, is there anyone here who uses something like Buffer or one of those tools to post on a lot of social media at once? Because JReleaser actually supports more and different channels than those professional publishing tools do.
That's cool.
So there's a lot of possibilities to use JReleaser. So this is basically it. I think we've blah 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 enough, and we're kind of.
Did we?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah. It's time to show some action, Martin. Talk is cheap. Let's get going.
Oh boy. Oh, this is getting a bit scary then. All right. Let me get back to a second for to MCS. As I said, it's a command line tool. You can use it to search things on Maven Central, but without having to command tab to your browser, search.maven.org, type it in, enter, wait. It's just MCS search, blah blah blah. And I happen to have received 2 new features contributed by people that actually use MCS. See, I'm not the only one using it. And I thought today would be a great idea to just release that stuff. So what are we going to do for that? Well, we have to build those executables. as I said, and as Tom also mentioned, I already had that stuff in place. I'm using Maven for that. I'm using GraalVM for that. And I didn't quite feel like reinventing that wheel, so I've kept that as is. Then JReleaser is going to package the distributions, and that's I'm using the JReleaser Maven plugin for that. And then finally ship that distribution, and that's going to be an action for JReleaser. And all of this is orchestrated with GitHub Actions, because, for instance, I don't have a Windows build machine, I don't have a Linux build machine. Well, I could fire up an old box, but I don't feel like doing that every time. And on GitHub Actions, it's all for free available. The only thing that they don't have is M1 runners, and that's why I have a MacBook, because that is actually a GitHub Actions runner to create the M1 release. I think the first thing to do is actually start that release, and this is going to be a bit difficult because A, the screen is there, and B, this is an AZERTY keyboard and I'm used to QWERTY. I'm not blaming you, it's just challenging.
Belgian keyboards are weird.
If that's the only... let me see, actions. I have a release action here, and I'm going to run it on the main branch. Release version. What was I amped? I think the last one was 06. It's a new version, so let's make it an 070. See, there we go. Is that no?
Shift, yeah.
Shift. Who thought of that? 070, that's going to be the new version, and then 071 dash. Excellent. Snapshot. That's going to be the new version, because when I release new stuff, there's probably a bug in it, so we need 071 snapshot to fix that bug.
Have a bit more confidence, Maarten. A bug in it, come on.
I think it was only 30 minutes ago when we discussed the typical rubbish of code that I produce. I'm going to run that workflow, and we'll just see it worked on my machine, remember? There it goes. It's going to run. Let's look at the steps it will take. First, it determines the version, and it actually modifies the pom.xml to put that version in there. Then when that's done, and that should typically be only a few seconds, there we go. It expands into a build matrix, which will build for Mac OS on the old Intel processors, Mac OS on ARM64, which is this little boy, going to take care of Linux and Windows. And when that's done, we have a final step in the process, which is going to create that release and publish it and announce it.
So just to make clear to the audience, the second build, the Mac ARM64, is running in GitHub, but GitHub is spawning an agent on this one.
Yeah,
because it's the ARM.
Because GitHub doesn't offer ARM runners yet. Yeah. They have it in private beta, I believe, but I'm not cool enough to have access to that or whatever. In the meantime, we can have a quick look at how that looks like. We have a workflow, and it's called the release workflow, and we'll basically see the main steps that I just pointed out. There's a version job, which is, as I said, updating the POM, committing it into Git, and then writing down the new version number in a file. And then we have a build matrix, which essentially says, build the static image, the native images for Linux, for Windows, for Mac OS. The steps are a little bit different per platform, but well, there's for that. And then finally, and that's the interesting part, it uploads the whatever comes out of that, which is a tar.gz file and or a zip file, depending on the platform, into GitHub artifacts. And then, depending on the previous step, we have the release step, which will read the version number again, download the artifacts, and then eventually invoke the JReleaser full release goal from the Maven plugin. And as you can see, it has a lot of environment variables. That is because, for instance, if you want to install the tool through Homebrew, it's published in a separate tab. which is in fact a separate GitHub repository, and you need an access token to do a commit on that repository. And the same for Chocolatey and for Scoop, and then there's access tokens for Twitter, for Mastodon, for Blue Sky and whatnot.
Yeah, so you inject all of these in your GitHub action.
Yeah, and then JReleaser gets them as an environment variable and is then able to make the API calls, except I'm not, I'm Dutch, so I'm cheap. I don't have a paid Twitter account, so the tweets usually don't get through because somebody decided that it would be great to pay for API access. And because sometimes it can go wrong, I have a step to actually capture the output, store it in a file, and then finally the new version, so that was 071 snapshot in my case, is going to be written in the POM and then also committed onto the main branch.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Yes, sir. So your question is, can you? I think I heard it, so I was about to repeat it, but never mind.
Okay, with the microphone, it's going to be more better. Is there a way to ask JReleaser to increment the version automatically, so that when I go into the release tab, I just click one button and it increments automatically by one version? And if I decide that the number has to be something else, I override it manually. By default, it's just one click.
Yeah. I think it's possible to do that. I'm not sure if JReleaser can do that, but at least Maven can do that. And there might even be a non-official Maven plugin that tries to determine for you if it should be a patch version update, a minor version update, or a major version update. But I prefer to be explicit in this case, so I designed the workflow to ask me for the input rather than assuming that it can calculate. But it's a nice question, so if you feel like chocolate or stroopwafels or both, you're totally invited. Okay, I think this was enough.
What do you mean enough? You triggered the build. How's it going?
Oh, yeah,
You're going to leave these people in tension. Come
on. That's a good one. Nah, still running.
Will it take a long time? Oh, 2 out of 4.
Yeah.
I guess I'll show you my project first, and then we can
do that
go,
in the meantime.
We can go back to
sure.
Because with all this serious command line stuff, this is the one. So
it is more geeky, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's I like it. So it's actually really a very simple filter that Spring will pick up. So between every call that comes in, it checks should this be rickrolled, yes or no, and yeah, that's what it does. But it's a jar file, so I want to publish it to Maven Central so people can start using it. But to publish something to Maven Central, you can't just do that, because else it would be quite messy. So a short guide, how do you publish to Maven Central? And this is where it becomes a bit weird, because we're talking about automation, but the first thing you need to do if you want to push to Maven Central is please sign a Jira ticket on the Sona type repository, and they will make one for you. So as far as I know, this is still the procedure. I could be wrong. I don't think I am, because else someone would have given me a call by now.
I think this is
it's still the case. So you need to go to the Jira, make an account, fire up a ticket, and then they will make a repository for you where you are allowed to upload your files. And not just that, you need to follow some requirements. And the requirements are actually quite strict. The requirements to be allowed to upload to Maven Central is, in Maven you have to have a group name and an artifact. Is it group ID? No?
Group ID, artifact ID.
Group ID and artifact ID. The group ID, you actually need to own the domain. So you need to use the correct coordinates. So because I own the website and the domain tomcools.be, I'm allowed to use the group ID be.tomcools. Yeah. So your reverse domain is what you should use as your group ID. So I know a lot of projects get generated with com.demo. You're not allowed to publish that. Yeah. Unless if you by accident own demo.com, which would be quite impressive. But that's one of the things that you need to follow.
As a little aside, don't worry if you don't have a domain name, because you can also do, for instance, io.github.your username.
Yeah, Correct.
And they will have an automated process for that to verify that you're actually the owner of that GitHub account. So
yeah. So for GitHub, you can use the IO
Yeah.
trick. It's not just that, because when you have a dependency or jar files that you want to load into your editor, you would very like, if you open IntelliJ, there's these two little buttons, download sources, so that you can inspect the sources if you need to. So it's actually enforced that you have Java doc and sources that are also provided. So when you push to Maven Central, it has to be there. Next to that, they want to make 100% sure that what you build is also what arrives at Maven Central, so that there's no man-in-the-middle attack when I'm uploading something. So I actually need to make checksums, send those checksums next to the files, and then Maven Central will check, do these actually match? And if they don't match, you just get an error and it won't be published. And finally, to prove that I am the one who built those files, you need to sign your files with some encryption. So I'll give you a short overlook of what that looks like. And I'll open my Spring Boot. Yeah, here he is. I'll put the bit. Let me go into much better. So let me give you a short overview of what I have configured. It's a bit more jittery than I'd hoped. So this is, I use the Maven plugin because I just want everything in Maven. You can use the YAML configuration as well, but I like everything in Maven, so that's what I do. You have to give your project name. Here I enable signing, so that means that JReleaser will sign my artifacts for me. So it will automatically do those PGP signings. Then for my release, I have here Tom Cools. Oh, very jittery. Tom Cools on GitHub. I connected this API and I use conventional commits. Conventional commits is the thing that Maarten also already mentioned. If you structure your commits in a certain way, then it can automatically create a changelog. So for example, let me just quickly jump here and go to changelog to generate the changelog for me.
Java 22, great.
Of course, Java 22. Why would you go for less, Maarten?
Good question.
And now in my JReleaser folder right here, you can see that it generated my changelog, and this is based on my, it's a bit tricky to do it like this. If you look at my Git history, you can see that my Git history here actually matches with what was automatically generated in the changelog. So just as a proof, it actually uses my my Git history here.
It's nice to see that you thank yourself.
Oh yeah. So I like to pat myself on the back every once in a while.
I can do it once more if you really need it.
But I accidentally committed with 2 different accounts, so I did exclude my other self.
Yeah.
So Tomco is out of the picture. So there's ways to configure this. You can thank all your committers, or you can hide some of them. So you have quite a bit of leeway for that changelog. And then once it has created all of that, then I will announce, and announce is posting it somewhere. And I've configured 2 of them. I'm posting on Mastodon and on Blue Sky. For those that don't know Blue Sky, it was originally started by someone, Jack, who left Twitter X, who 2 days ago announced, don't use Blue Sky anymore, go back to Twitter. But yeah, then I added this one because I actually built the integration for Blue Sky in JReleaser. That was my contribution. And you can see that you can add in your tweet certain variables that are automatically filled. So I don't have to go manually tweet, hey, I'm going to release this version. It just works. So then how does this actually work? Well, I need 2 Maven commands for this. First, I need to put some things ready. So JReleaser is often not a one command thing. First, you need to build your distributions or the things that you want to publish, and then JReleaser can pick it up from there. So in this case, I have a profile that will run my tests, that will create a jar file, and then will finally create my sources and such, and that will put it in this staging deploy folder here. So inside this version, there's a bunch of stuff. And then with my next command, I will actually tell JReleaser to go, but I think I still have dry run on here somewhere. Do I still have dry run? Just a second. Ah, there we go. We're not going to do dry run now. We're going to do it for realsies.
Ooh.
And this should go, yeah, of course, not like this. Whoop.
Better safe than sorry.
And there we go. And now JReleaser will start doing all the things that I hope I configured it correctly for. So it will start signing. It is now verifying my POM files because remember those requirements I said for Maven? That actually happens before it gets uploaded. Now it is signing all the files. So it actually creates a bunch of extra files that are signed. I think I can actually show you because they should be there now. There, so you see the normal jar file, the signed one, and then the ones with the checksum. So that's for the jar file and also for the POM files. And now it is uploading to Maven Central, and it might take a few minutes until this finally gets processed. Yeah, let's not wait on this for the conference Wi-Fi, I think. So I'm going to let this run on the background. And then we're going to talk a bit more, and we'll show the results afterwards. Because I know that some of you might be thinking,
Well, speaking of results.
what results? What results? Is it the,
Can I?
yeah, you want to take over? Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, just a minute. Because look at that. All green boxes. I'm happy.
I'm happy you're happy, Maarten. I'm
Thank
really
you,
happy
thank you.
you're happy.
Yeah. So just out version 0.70 of MCS. You can scoop update, brew update, SDK update, whatever update, and should be on your machine.
Does it work immediately? Because you deployed it, but it takes a while before these package managers actually see it, right?
Depends per package manager.
Yeah.
Homebrew, for instance, does quite frequently update. SDK man, you actually have to announce through an API, hey, I have a new version.
Okay.
So that's real time. And I think some others do like periodic scanning. And for instance, Chocolatey has this whole automated release process, and they go via scanning and whatnot. So that takes an hour or something.
So it's not, if Maarten ever tweets it's live, it could be that you have to wait like...
Depends on your package manager, basically.
Basically, you can't help it. You've done
Yeah.
everything you need to do. But I know that with this talk, I'm building something that I want to push to Maven Central. Maarten is building a CLI that he wants to share through Homebrew. I know not everyone does that. So we have a few recipes for people that don't push to Maven Central, but to like a local repository and some other use cases where you can use JReleaser without doing the full thing. And the first thing is...
For instance, what you could do if you have a shared library in your company and you have GitLab in your company, sure, will also work. And maybe you can
do this. So for example, I've worked for some big financial institutions who often have their own frameworks or at least libraries. And what is really convenient if you can notify the teams that have to use these frameworks on Slack, for example. So I mentioned you can announce things with JReleaser. If the JReleaser doesn't have support for it, it also has a way to announce on a webhook. And once we have webhooks, we're developers, right? We're good. We can make it work.
we can do anything.
Another thing that's kind of a weird feature, but I think it's very interesting, is JReleaser allows you to download resources during your build, but from anywhere, from HTTP, for example. When could this be convenient? You have like a legal department that has a license file, or you have a design department.
Liars,
Yeah.
really.
Or you have a design department that's just made a new favicon. They can put it on a server, and during your build, you can download it and include it into your build resources. So if you have 20 different mobile apps, for example, you could use this trick to have the same image in all 20 mobile apps during the build. So it will download it. Of course, you have a dependency on that server. Need to be a bit careful, but in general, it allows you to avoid copying those files in every repository for all those projects. And then, of course, I don't know if anyone saw Brian's talk about software security. Brian Vermeer? Nobody? Yeah, some people did. What's very important is when you ship something to the outside world and you share it with everyone, or even within a company, is that you know exactly what you're shipping. So we should be shipping things like attestation files, which basically list every dependency that goes inside your jar file or the thing that you're deploying. And JReleaser also helps with that. It has currently 3 different catalog options. It has SLSA, which I am sort of forgetting the abbreviation for now, but it is at least attestation files. Then there's
Let me Google that for you.
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Martin GPT.
Social Legal Studies Association. That kind of makes sense.
Supply chain level for, let's forget about this. The second thing that we have are software identification tags, or SWIDs, which is an ISO norm, which also lists, basically puts a tag on the box of your software saying this is the software written by this person and so on. And then, of course, there's SBOM, which means Software Bill of Materials, which lists everything that's in your deployable software. And JReleaser helps with that as well. So, yeah, I've been. I had my little spaceship. It was working.
It was cute, I have to admit.
It was working fine. But what do I do when one of my spaceship fancy things doesn't exist in JReleaser?
You mean the blue lights on the wing? You
Yeah,
definitely need those, right?
I need those. I didn't see it on your fancy big.
No, it didn't have blue lights on the wings. That's correct. But I understand that you may have a situation where your project is so special that it needs those blue lights. The good part is that you still can benefit from everything that JReleaser has to offer for you. JReleaser has 2 ways in which you can customize what it does. The first thing is that it has hooks, which, as the name suggests, let you hook into what JReleaser does. And if that is not enough for you, you can even use the extension points that JReleaser has to offer. As for hooks, these are predefined moments in the full release cycle that JReleaser defines. Predefined, you have your choice of running an operating system command, a script, you can even inline a script, or you can refer an external script. And that's just at certain points you get to hook into the process, do a little thing or 2, and then let JReleaser continue whatever it does. You can filter them out and say only on regular releases, not on snapshots, only on Linux, not on Windows, so on and so forth. But the real magic for your blue wing lights, I guess, is going to be extension points.
Yeah, extension points. So let me just quickly jump to my. Oh, it's actually finished. It should have tweeted by now. Well, did you know that on Blue Sky they call it skeeting? You can skeet.
What?
Yeah, you can skeet. Let's see if it actually worked. So it's here. So 5 minutes ago it was published. Thanks to JReleaser.
It's not yet on Maven Central.
It's not yet on Maven Central. Well,
no.
it will be
MCS
soon.
says it's not.
It will be soon. Well,
yes. They have a sync cycle of a couple of hours.
You can build custom extensions. So this is what I am using right. I jumped a bit. You can build your own extension and extensions where hooks will trigger scripts that you have. Extensions are just Java code where you can basically do anything, right? Once you are having calls into your Java code, you can basically do whatever you want. So what I did as a simple example is I created an ASCII art steps extension. So what it will do is it will basically just list. Let me just do a dry run mode again. I'm not going to release again, just put it on dry run mode. And it is going to very occasionally print the step that it's currently on. It might take a while. It should print the step it's currently on in like ASCII art. So as you can see, right a bit. Oh, there it goes. Beautiful. Deploy.
Wow.
I even made a JReleaser banner just at the start.
So every project needs a banner like that.
So it took a while because, as you can see here in the code, I just list the GAV, the GAV, so that's the coordinates, and it will automatically go get it from a Maven repository. So this is not a Maven dependency per se, but it is able to go find it in Maven. And that's so you don't have to explicitly list it as a dependency, and JReleaser will put it nicely in, I believe it's JReleaser extensions, and here you can see that it downloaded the jar file of my extension, which is also in Maven. So a lot of flexibility with using JReleaser in this way. So that was extensions. So then I think we're almost through our talk.
Yeah. Time to wrap up.
Yeah,
We covered the three main topics that we promised you up front. We described what JReleaser is and how it can help you. We showed how it worked by actually running it 2 times and 2 times success, which
That's
is
a lot better than
so
last
far
time.
is the best ratio we have achieved. And we showed you some ideas of other things that you can do with JReleaser, whether out of the box or using hooks and extension points as a mechanism.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Forgot anything?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I think we covered it all.
Yeah, that means we can release you into the London evenings. Please, if you leave the room, take this with you. If you consider using JReleaser, you don't need a big bang approach. You can gradually migrate, start using JReleaser little by little. If there's something that does not cover your needs, but you definitely got to use it, you look at extension points and or hooks to help you with that. And finally, and that I think is what JReleaser is all about, automate the heck out of it. Because as we know, if it is a hard thing to do, we should do it more often. That's the only way to make it easy. With that, thank you. And if you want to look at how we did it, these are the repositories. We will share the slides later so that you can actually just click on those rather than having to read the names and remember them.
Yeah, and with that, I think it's party time.
It's party time, for sure.
So before we conclude, we do have chocolates, stroopwafels. We're not allowed to bring them back into our own country, so you have to.
And we have JReleaser stickers.
And we have JReleaser stickers. So if you're interested, or if you have any more questions, feel free to come up and ask them. Right, that's it.